Hey guys, this is JGod13, and I just wanted to take some time to walk you through the build I've been using for a lot of the endgame content, specifically the raid and a lot of legendary content. It's a red DPS build, so we'll jump right in. So specialization I'm using is Gunner. It's nice for survivability. It's got a lot of utility. You get a passive ammo regen for you as well as your teammates. You get 10% armor on kill, and then you get an additional 30% bonus armor every time you use an armor kit. So helps you out. Very good, for solo content. The armor on kill is very nice. The ammo regen is very nice, and the bonus armor obviously can help you, situationally. So for my weapon, I use the classic M1A. I know a lot of people like the Baker's Dozen for the ammo return. Personally, I prefer the Boomerang. It's a little bit of utility mixed with extra damage. So crit hits have a 50% chance to return the bullet to the mag, and if the bullet's returned, that extra shot gets you additional 40% increased damage. And that increased damage will also scale with crit hits, so we'll demonstrate that a little bit later. But very good. Obviously, you want crit damage and crit chance on it, and as good rolls as you can get. That kind of goes without saying. So for my secondary, I have a few different things I like to use. Typically cold relations when I get in a bind, very helpful. Close range, high crit chance. You get perfect strain, so you're getting up to eight stacks with that 10% crit hit damage for every half second you fire. I like strain on automatics. It's certainly good for semis as well, so I think certainly deserves an honorable mention for the classic M1. Strain is a good talent. Killer is also a good talent. Boomerang, in my opinion, is the best just because it offers some utility along with the extra damage, and you don't have to continually mash the fire button to get those strain stacks or kill an enemy to get the extra crit damage for Killer. So checks a lot of boxes and just kind of rounds out pretty well. All right, so we showed you cold relations. Sweet Dreams is a must-have, especially for a lot of legendary content. That ability to instantly kill non-elite enemies with one melee shot is extremely effective, especially with high armor enemies in legendary content, for instance, where you can effectively do 15 million damage to a fully armored purple veteran enemy with one shot. So, very, very great utility. Don't really use it as much as the shotgun itself, but more so just for the melee talent. Another exotic I like to use is kind of situational, but very good when you use it, is the Nemesis. Shots fired deal an extra up to 100% weapon damage based on how long the trigger's held. And honestly, it's really not as long as you think it would be. It synergizes very well with the chest piece talent that we use, Focus. We'll get into that in just a minute. So with that being said, so you've seen our primary, you've seen our secondaries. So primary, one other thing I'd like to add for your M1 is you would definitely want to have your 8x scope. That's going to be needed in order to get the focus bonus. So it's really important that you have that. The extra 5 rounds for your mag, super important, basically increases your mag size from 50%, so from 10 to 15. Very helpful. And then the laser pointer for crit hit chance. Now, if you're close to 60% crit hit chance, you can opt to take the crit hit damage mod there as well. So you got a little bit of flexibility depending on where your crit hit chance is at. All right, so I like to use 3 pieces of Providence. You get the headshot damage, crit hit chance, crit hit damage. Very good set to use for all 3 pieces. Very applicable. Kind of works really well with any weapon setup. So I've got those in my backpack, my mask, and my chest. And I'm using crit hit damage mods with all of those. You can also sub in crit hit chance mods if your crit hit chance is under 60% or lower. Obviously it's kind of up to you, but you want to get as close to 60% as you can without going over. Talk about backpack talent, Vigilance. A lot of people use this for red DPS builds. Extra 25% weapon damage, disabled if you take damage for 4 seconds. Obviously, if you can get the perfect variant, it's preferred, but it's certainly not needed. It only shaves 1 second off. So, and those are tough to get decent rolls on in the dark zone. For the chest piece, I like to use Focus as my talent. You get an extra 5% damage every second you are aiming while scoped, up to 50%. Some people like to use Glass Cannon. You get a 25% damage bonus with that, perpetual, but you also take 50% more incoming damage. So with Focus, you can actually do more damage, with that buff. than you would glass cannon, and you're going to be aiming down your sights most of the time anyway. So even when you're not getting the full 50% damage, as long as you're aiming down your sight, you're constantly stacking damage buff. So it's extremely helpful, and obviously 50% is a very considerable amount. For gloves, I like to use Groupo to get that one-piece crit hit damage. Holster, I use Ceska for the crit hit that one-piece crit hit chance. And for my knee pads, Fox's Prayer. The Overlord one piece gives you 10% rifle damage. Obviously works well when you're using the classic M1A. And the damage to targets out of cover, which is great because effectively everyone you're shooting is going to be out of cover. So in terms of qualifying that when that damage applies, it's almost all the time. All right, so for skills, I like to use Reviver Hive. I'm not going to talk too much about that. I think you guys pretty much know, what that does and how useful that can be. I like to use the shield. It's got 1.3 million health here, you see, at skill level 0. So effectively doubles your armor. Nice to have. It's got about a 15-second cooldown whenever it gets blasted off when it gets exhausted. The armor gets exhausted. So it basically doubles your armor. You get to pull it out. Very nice. Lets you kind of pop out of cover. Take some shots, take some damage, pop back into cover, let the shield regen without having to, sacrifice, your armor and taking those shots. That shield recharges, so it's basically like a free regen on top of having armor in your armor kits. All right, something else I'd like to talk about. Now, we talked about the gunner specialization. I do have another specialization that I use, particularly in legendary content, the technician. And what that does is going to give you the one extra skill tier bonus without having to sacrifice a weapon damage slot on any of your equipment pieces. So that helps your Reviver Hive, but additionally it helps your shield. Now, see, it takes the shield from 1.3 million health up to 1.9 million. So it's a 40% additional increase in shield health. You get some additional active and holster regen. It's nice to have, but not particularly pertinent. So really you want that 40% buff. Super helpful. Additionally, you're getting 12% extra damage against enemy skill proxies, hostile electronics, drones, things like that. So in the legendary content, you're constantly fighting dogs, you're constantly fighting tanks. That extra 12% does a good amount of damage. You lose the passive ammo regen that you get from the gunner, but in those missions, ammo boxes are frequent enough that you're really not going to be running out of ammo. So it's nice to flip to when you need to do extra damage against electronics, or just buff your shield, make it a little bit more tanky. All right, so that kind of covers the build. I'm just going to go ahead and do a quick demonstration for you guys. So we're in heroic difficulty right now, and I'm going to change the veterancy over to named. Just kind of give you a sense of when you're fighting a named boss, like what you're going to be up against and the amount of damage you're able to do, how quickly you can take it down. So we've got 16 rounds right now. That's obviously with the one extra reload. So we're going to go ahead and just take some shots here. So 2.3 non-crit headshot damage. So you get 4/4 with crit. Right, and you can see those headshots, how quickly we could take down a named enemy in heroic difficulty. All right, and so you see we just had some 5s in there. Now that's with the boomerang talent, getting that extra 40% damage. And when it crits, you're seeing that along with the crit, scaling with the crit damage. So we're hitting over 5 mil with some of our crits when that boomerang procs. In addition, some of the ammo return back. So when you're spamming, just spamming shots, if I can hit something, you're really saving a lot of ammo because that ammo is coming back. So you're able to spam fire on a relatively small clip gun and really sort of stretch that out because of the boomerang. So that's the M1. Obviously with the scope you're using focus, so you're going to want to let that stack up, right? So we'll see here. You can see in the buffs in the bottom left of the HUD from your health. You see that every second ticking up to max. And when that maxes out, you're at additional 50% damage. So, let's just show a quick demo. Here you go. So, there's headshots on a named target. Here's body shots on a named target. Again, this is heroic difficulty. Right, so I used about half my clip there. And with body shots alone, was able to take down the named enemy. So there you go, 2 named enemies with a full clip. So, extremely good damage output, quick enough fire rate. That focus is giving you a considerable amount of damage increase whenever it's fully stacked. And I'm just going to quickly show you the Nemesis. I highly recommend getting this gun. It's quite a pain to farm, but very situational. It can one-shot it can one-shot purple or red enemies with a headshot crit, purple enemies specifically with a headshot crit in Legendary difficult, which is extremely nice. You're probably not going to use it too often because you do have to charge up and you're out of cover, but when you're initiating combat and the enemy's unaware of your presence, it does give you the opportunity to take down that purple controller or the purple drone operator or the purple sniper or support guy, whatever it may be. There's a number of different guys you're going to want to focus, but gives you the ability to take them out with one shot. See right there, so you saw with focus, it buffs Nemesis as well because it's got an 8x scope. We just did 16.5 million damage with one shot on a named target. We'll let that focus stack again. There you go. So 9-8 unbuffed, full focus, non-crit. Extremely high damage output. Great when you need to chunk an enemy. Not as good DPS consistently against the M1 just because of the fire rate of the M1. You can do a lot more damage with the M1 firing, but when you need that super high damage shot, take that one guy out with a one shot, Nemesis is definitely your go-to, and I absolutely recommend using it with focus because you're getting an extra 50% on top of the extra 100% you're getting with the Nemesis's talent. So. But that wraps up the video for us today, guys. Appreciate you stopping by. I'll post some of the details of the equipment build in the description. If you have any questions, certainly don't hesitate to reach out. And hopefully this helps you, run some of that endgame content, make your life a little bit easier. All right, guys, have a good night and enjoy. Thanks.